He's Erik.
And she's Kat.
And this is Pop Filter.
Welcome to Pop Filter, where we filter out the pop culture down to the geeky news, views, reviews, and interviews you can use. Today's topic is...
We're discussing ADHD and living with ADHD as anime fans and also people who have careers that live with ADHD.
Yes, a topic very close to both our hearts and brains.
So, Erik, how has it affected you? Because for me, I just go off on a tangent. Even if I have to make update videos on YouTube, sometimes an 8-minute update video can turn into a 30-minute update video because I'm just like, I'm going to talk about this, but wait, I'm going to talk about that too.
I know how that is. I sometimes have trouble myself with brevity. I was always kind of a wild child growing up, and that's the funny thing is that my parents always joke that, you know, this was before the day of the internet, before you can go on Wikipedia and figure out, oh, my son has ADD, you know. But this was the days where you had to go to the library and check out books on this kind of stuff and hopefully come to some kind of understanding, because it was still such a new thing, and you know, we didn't have readily accessible information. So the funny thing is, you know, one thing that I always say, and this is kind of very personal, I don't know if I would be diagnosed with ADHD today like I was back in first grade. I was put on Ritalin back then, and my parents took me off of it because they said it zombified me. They did not like how it
You want to
me.
know something about this? No, this gives me a personal story. Now, everybody in my family wanted, except for my mother, wanted me on Ritalin. They literally, because I would have like these things called fits, where if I ate something, it would like be like a chemical imbalance in my brain, and then I would just have these fits everywhere. So people would be like, she has to go on Ritalin. She has to go on Ritalin. But it was due to the fact that I'm ADHD, plus I had these fits because I was eating the wrong types of food. Right. So I can relate to that. My mom actually had to find this one video where this doctor and nutritionist said that Ritalin actually zombifies people. Like, when you just brought that up, I'm like, whoa, that's like a blast from the past right there. Because I remember seeing that video and my mom just trying to fight for me, showing like, people don't need to go on Ritalin. Like, she actually helped one of my next door neighbors, one of their daughters, she was on Ritalin, and my mom was like, no, she shouldn't be, because it will screw up your mind. It will literally just screw up your whole mind. And then the parents listened to my mom, and she got off of it, and my neighbor's been healthy ever since. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the South Park episode where they all get on Ritalin. It's very true. Yeah. It's... Back in the day, you know, there was a heavy diagnosis of ADHD and ADD because it was just so misunderstood as, oh, my child daydreams, he must be ADD.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was. But no, I was full blown. Like, I hit like every marker on the test, and I hit like a triple blind study with the medication that they recommended the high dose on me to start with.
And the other thing, I think the thing is too, is like, people think the easy way out is just give your kids a pill and then everything will be safe. Like, my aunts and uncles were literally like, you should put her in a home because how she's acting. You should put her on these drugs. It's like, that's the easy way out. It's like, the other way that you could have dealt with it would be just to, you know, see what else the other options that everyone else has.
Right. But again, this was back in, you know, for me, it was way back in the 90s, early 90s, when this was not so well understood. And honestly, we didn't really have, I can't verify this, so don't quote me on it, but I don't think we had the autism spectrum diagnosis. I don't know if that was before the DSM that contained the new autism spectrum, quote unquote new. But that's what I'm saying, is like, I don't know if I would be diagnosed with ADD or ADHD today. I could be on the spectrum by the markers, by the criteria that's now outlined for that.
Yeah, because it goes to show like how much research that we have now compared to what we had back then.
And there was a lot of crossover. There's definitely a lot of crossover.
Yeah. And like, as for me too, is like, it's like, I actually had to be homeschooled because of it. That's one of the main reasons I had to be homeschooled. I was pulled out of school in 7th grade from middle school because I could not focus. I mean, I was pulled out for a lot of other health issues too, but another reason was like I was being bullied, and one of the main like parts of being bullied was because of my ADHD, because I couldn't focus. All the kids were like, "Oh, there's something wrong." You know how kids are.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they'll pick something wrong with you if you're like the weak link of the pack. It's suddenly like, "Oh my God, we're gonna pick on you." But that's one of the main reasons I had to actually be homeschooled, and it was the best decision my mom ever made, because I could really focus on what I wanted to do. You know, I wasn't distracted by 25 kids in a classroom all shouting at the same time, and then, like, it was just like a one-on-one type of thing, and it really helped me.
I'd imagine. Yeah, that I had a different route. I was in a Catholic elementary school growing up, and definitely I was picked on a lot for being kind of weirder than the rest, more rambunctious.
But you know, the thing is, what I realized is the weirder you are, the like more like successful you are in life. I've really realized it's like, be like your own self rather than be like everybody else. You know, like I've noticed that like some of the, not even just trendsetters out there, but people who really make a difference are people who always do their own thing and are the weird ones of the pack.
Well, you know, there's definitely something to be said about that, because if you're told your entire life that you're different, then you're just like, fine, I don't want to be normal. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to follow the standard desk job. You know, I aspire to do something different and bigger, because, you know, I stood out and yet was put out, but now I'm going to stand up and show up.
And like it comes through, like, if you, like, some people, like, really take it to heart when they're bullied, and, like, they feel, like, sometimes, like, I'm still scarred by it, but I've reached that point in my life where I'm like, you know what, I'm glad that I kind of went through it, because it made me stronger, and then I'm glad that I'm not following what everyone else is doing, because that's not originality there. You know, like, there's so, like, even, like, on YouTube, like, you could do all these types of trends, you could play all these games to, like, blow up overnight. But like I say to people, is that worth it? No, it's not worth it, because if it doesn't fit your values or doesn't fit you, then you're not really building anything for yourself.
Right. You gotta do what you enjoy, because otherwise, I've seen so many people feed these algorithms. It's like, I don't want to play this game because but I need to, because it's the newest game and it's what's going to get views and it's going to help subscribers.
And that is when burnout happens.
Yep.
Like, you could see it with people. Sometimes they act like they're happy, but then in reality, when they're done recording a 3-hour session of a game, they're completely miserable.
Well, I won't name names, but I will say I knew a popular YouTuber who's also friends with some very popular YouTubers. And I think, like, the mantra of one of these YouTubers before every recording session is just to turn to his partner and just go, effing kill me. Okay, let's start.
Oh my God. Because people have no idea. It's like, you could be completely miserable in life and then act completely different as your persona on YouTube. It's like, it's crazy.
Yep. I mean, that's funny.
If it works. If it works. Oh, that's fantastic.
But you've noticed, like, a lot of these YouTubers, I mean, they're pretty ADD about their content, because a lot of the famous YouTubers aren't doing what made them famous.
I know.
The PewDiePies, the Markipliers, they're doing less video games and doing more reaction videos. And
even PewDiePie has, like, said that why he's doing more reactions is because reactions are conversational. It really gives people something to talk about. So, like, even with me, I mean, oh my God, the threats that I have gotten because I wouldn't play Uncharted.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny. It's just funny to me now, but I mean, like, I would even say there's a lot of YouTubers out there who are ADHD. I mean, some of them have even said it. Like, there's, like, this test that goes on, like, I'm like, wow, is this an actual test? I'm not sure, but it's like the ADHD test, and a lot of YouTubers have taken it, and all of them are like, I'm on the spectrum. Great. It makes so much sense now.
I almost get the feeling they're breeding ADD now within today's generation, with, like, all the jump cuts and just, like, the short content videos that these kids can now browse and get so much entertainment in such a short amount of time and just move on to the next one. It's like, oh my gosh.
I mean, when I was working with like the publishing industry, there was like this one author, and he actually said to me like he's ADHD, and how he dealt with it is like doing a lot of meditation. But why he really loves his ADHD is because he got to create all these original characters. And he's done, do you know the show like Oswald and like the octopus, the backyard against? He's a producer on that too. So when I was talking with him, he was like saying that his ADHD actually has helped him create these wild and crazy characters. And sometimes I realize that even a lot of picture book authors and all these authors, their ADHD, it helps them because it's like their mind is always going. And the good thing about living with ADHD is like your mind might wander, but you're always like working on something, the next big project. You're always wanting to do more. Me, I need constant change in my life. Like if I sit down for like 5 seconds and I'm like, okay, no, I gotta do something else. And if it's like, even with my content, I would change my setup constantly until I did like this whole like redesign of everything, so I have like 4 sections to film in, because it would just be like for like 2 months I'd be like, okay, I have a brand new setup, I'm happy with it. Next thing I know, it's like, oh my god, it's the next new setup, and people are like, wait, didn't that just change? I'm like, I need constant change because it's my ADHD. It's stressful too, because it's like the amount of time that you spend setting something up, and then like 5 months later you're like, okay, I gotta change this. It's like, oh my god.
See, I'm a little different in that I get overloaded with the things that I want to do, and then I end up doing nothing because I'm just like faced with the paradox of choice. It's like, oh god, I gotta do this in the apartment, and then this, and then I gotta do this, and then I gotta send this mail, and then I gotta do this and this and this and this and this. Which one do I start with? I don't know. I need to relax from this.
Yeah, I could get like that too, because it's like if I write a full list of myself of what I have to do per day for like the channel or anything else, I'm like, okay, what do I start with first? And then the next day, it's like, wait, I didn't do any of this. And it's like,
yeah, I'm just like, let me clear my head. Let me watch just a small YouTube video, and then, oh, wait, it's night.
Yeah, what helps you? Like, what helps you deal with it? Because for me, it's like, either listen to some Coldplay or Arcade Fire, or or like listen to like a motivational speech, or just walk around for a little bit. That's what helps me. But what helps you?
What helps me is just starting from the get-go. I wake up, I'll get some food, and as long as I don't sit down, I will just kind of keep wandering the house. I'll be like pacing back and forth. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in the kitchen now. I might as well clean this here. And then, oh, I'm upstairs. I might as well get my laundry together. And it's like you really have to
retrain your brain. And it's really tough because it's like, you're like, for me, I don't know if for you, but it always feels like, how I can't even describe this because this is audio, but like wiggling my fingers, okay? That's how my brain feels, like all the time. It's like, it's constantly moving. And it's like, I really had to like, even now I struggle. Like, I have to retrain my brain. Like, my mom has helped me with this. Like, she's always told me like, okay, you gotta retrain it in a way that you focus on one thing at a time. So when I was younger, she had to help me with that. And now I'm just like, okay, I have to focus on one thing, get that thing done, and then like, make like a checklist, cross it off.
Yeah, that's kind of honestly how my parents almost diagnosed me. Like, or the doctor diagnosed me, but they gave my parents a set of tasks that was kind of almost very similar to that. They said it was a triple-blind study, no dose, placebo dose, low dose. So it was a placebo dose, low dose, high dose.
Yeah.
And each time they would do that, they would give me a set of tasks to follow, like a list of tasks to follow, like, hey, go to your room, grab this, and then can you grab this from downstairs? Just these simple things. And I was, first grade, so.
Yeah. Did you know what was going on? Like, could you guess?
No, I had no clue. Okay. I had no clue. My parents told me about this years later, and I had no clue this was going on.
Yeah.
And then again, like I said, they were just like, okay, we're putting him on the high dose. That seems to be what he's most responsive to.
Oh my gosh. But did it really like affect you? Like with
it did. I was on it for about a year throughout my first grade, and afterwards they took me off. They were done with that. Yeah. They were like, short term, yes, but long term, no.
Yeah, because it really screwed up a lot of kids. I mean, there was this whole documentary about it that it's like Ritalin really made kids go crazy or just get like depressed and not want to do anything, and it's like it's really sad. It's really sad. I mean, you do what helps, but at the same time, it's like you got to do it in the right way.
Right, exactly.
But good for your parents.
Again, I don't know what
they knew.
Yeah. Good. I love my parents for that. They were very aware, and again, they didn't have all the internet to look up this kind of stuff. They had to go to a library and check out a book.
Yeah, this one book actually saved my life. My mom figured out exactly what was wrong with me. I forgot its name, but I do remember it was like a mint green colored book. It was from and by a nutritionist who actually did the study on Ritalin and how it really does affect kids. And she actually my mom, from this book, the doctor would say in the book, okay, make a list of what your kid can and cannot have. And it started with me having like McDonald's, and then from the chemical imbalance from all the chemicals that were in it, like artificial flavoring, coloring, preservatives, it would make my like mind go crazy, and then the chemicals would really like affect me, and then like spark my ADHD to get worse. So she would write down everything that I would like intake in my body and be like, okay, she can't have this, she can't have that. That was tough growing up in school, because when people would bring food in or they would like have parties, I'd be the kid that would be like, okay, I have to have my orange juice, because the vitamin C really like counteracted the effect and helped me. I'm much better now, but like if I were to have something that has like artificial flavoring in it, it doesn't have that big of an effect on me now, but it will like make me get tired. So it's like, it's so much better because, you know, when you grow, your body matures, and then like you could deal with these types of things. But when I was a kid, I'd be the kid with the orange juice if I ever had anything, or had to eat every 3 hours because my metabolism is so fast. So it was tough growing up, but it's like, I feel like our pasts make us who we are. Mm-hmm. And like living with ADHD, it like shouldn't stop you from doing what you love to do. You should find your strengths within that.
Right. And I don't know if I've talked about this on a previous podcast, but there was one thing that I always took to heart from very early on in my voiceover training. One of my coaches, Pat Fraley, said that one thing you can do as an actor that will really help you is flaunt your limitations. And, you know, by that, like, let's take a physical example. Bruce Willis, he was going bald, and he could have gone any number of ways. He could have chosen to hide it by getting a wig. He could have chosen to delay it by getting hair plugs, or he could have chosen to flaunt it, and that's what he did. He shaved it all off and said, "This is my brand now."
Good.
So
make it your brand. I mean, I actually had this conversation with Derek before too, where some people feel like they're insecure over their flaws, but it's like turn your flaws into something you can use. You know, like turn this into something that you could really take away from or help people through it. Yeah. I mean, like
Jimmy Stewart would. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Like with me, like with my ADHD, I always tell people, it's hard for me to focus, but it makes me who I am, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and it makes you relatable, and it definitely gives you a certain energy that you can project to the audience and give to the audience that they're very receptive about and connects with them. And like I was going to say, like Jimmy Stewart, like one of the greatest actors. One of the worst actors, honestly. He couldn't remember a line to save his life, but it was his stammering through his lines that gave him his brand, that made him so noticeable and made him such a star. Just all those, I can't just, always getting through the lines a little weird, always getting to the point eventually, but he always had to take a few detours, I guess. Yeah, I can't do a good Jimmy Stewart. But that's, the example is that that was a limitation for his that gave him his identity, that gave him his brand.
Yeah, and it's like, there's a lot of people out there who feel like they have to close themselves in or shut themselves out of the world because, I'm different, or, I have this wrong with me, or this flaw. It's like, instead of doing that, and it'll take a while, it'll really take a while, because I can't say, like, you can be, like, confident overnight, but, like, after a while, you could start to, turn all those things for your advantage. It's like, what I always tell people is cope with comedy. It's like, if you have a flaw, if like you have acne or something, cope with that through comedy, because you're always going to have something about yourself that somebody else doesn't have, and you want to use that as your advantage.
It's kind of dark to think about, but it's also why I found that a lot of stand-up comedians that I've met personally are some of the most depressed people I know.
Yep.
They are definitely coping with comedy, and they're some of the people that's what comedy is. It's tragedy plus time.
Exactly. And people, like, especially kids nowadays, I mean, like, for bullying, what's sad is people say, we're going to deal with bullying. We're going to deal with all of this. It's fine now. It's like, it's actually worse. because it happens on the internet now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have ADHD, if you have anything that makes you insecure and you're getting bullied on it at school, but then in text messages or in forums or on YouTube or anywhere else, it's going to affect you. So when people, like, especially with the internet and everything, what I think schools should do is have more cyberbullying programs to help kids understand, or parents especially, how they can help their kids through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't imagine what it's like growing up in that kind of environment, because I didn't have, widespread Facebook. Like, Facebook was college for me. We had MySpace.
I think Facebook was high school or late middle school around for my people. Because I was homeschooled in 7th grade. I went back in junior year, and then I got homeschooled again because this couldn't happen. I was like, Mom, I'm going to try. And I'm like, nope, can't do this. So then, I don't even know. But I know MySpace was a huge thing in my middle school. So nowadays, I don't even know what kids are going through. I mean, it's like you got Twitter, you got Instagram, you got all these they don't even use like forums anymore. They use like chat boxes, and it's like you even have like anime, like there's like some anime sites that have chat boxes on it.
Yep.
And there's bullying there. So you're like, there's so many places people can get cyberbullied, and it's sad.
Yeah, I see a lot of my favorite celebrities have to deal with that. Unfortunately, I have to see a lot of wrestlers deal with that from rabid fans. Yeah.
Wow.
Just a lot of fans will take to criticism. They'll take the internet to criticize you in any way they feel is necessary.
Wow. It's sad.
Certain fans, not going to say all fans, of course.
Oh, yeah, because it's like some fans are really cool. Some fans take it, like, even with wrestling, it's like now that I've learned more about wrestling due to the last, the last podcast, oh my god, that was great.
Wrestling fans can be just as crazy as anime fans.
Oh my god, it's crazy! Because the thing is, it's like, you got the wrestling, like, as the characters, and then people always think, again, back to the persona thing, people think that your persona is really you. So then they take it to heart and make everything personal, and it's like, no, that is their character.
There's always that, and there's always, like, every small slight they make, if they make a stumble in a promo, if they make a bad move in a match, or if a match just didn't go so well, fans will take to them and criticize them, calling them bad wrestlers. And
it's like, and the thing is too, is like, you never know what somebody's going through in their personal life.
No. You never know. We all have bad days, and it's hard to do that stuff to begin with.
Yeah,
so.
And it's like, it's even tougher when it's like you're acting positive when you're this persona, and then offline, it's like when people are expecting you to be that way, it's like you can't be that way. Yeah.
No. And that's what's tiring about conventions, because again, you have your public persona, and yes, it is me. It's kind of me turned up to 11.
Exactly. I agree with that fully. It's like you're always turned on like a higher level. It's like you're yourself, but there's always that switch. Like you switch on to a higher level.
Yeah, and what the fans don't see is when you're back in the hotel room, when that switch is off, you're just slumped on the couch and
watching anime.
Watching anime, checking your phone, drinking beers, worried about paying the next bill, and worried about your car payments,
family
or if
issues.
It needs to be repaired. Family issues, friend issues. It's we fans see about 1% of our life, and it's about the 1% that we choose to show.
Exactly.
So it's
like even that 1% people could take away a lot from. Like you can like talk about personal things online all the time, like if you wanted to. But it's again, it's still that 1%. But sometimes people think it's that 100%, and it never is.
And they see how you react to it in that moment, at that moment, but not the rest of your life, not the 99% of your life when you're not aware of it and just living it.
Yeah.
Like we can be very self-aware about ADD now, but and people may think, oh, they sound so cool, they sound so self-aware. But if you hung out with me, you'd probably be annoyed with me.
That's literally.
Oh, this is what the ADD is actualized.
Yeah, my sisters are like, shut up. It's either I'm talking way too much, way too fast, or just saying something random.
But very much the same way.
It's so true, though. It's like people may, like, you may seem really cool online, or with you, it's like you may seem really cool at conventions or as your characters, but then in real life, it's like sometimes we just blabber and blabber and blabber.
I am very awkward, guys. I'm very socially awkward. I choose my words carefully, and sometimes I repeat the words I choose at conventions a lot.
I say the wrong things all the time, which then causes drama, and it's like, no! It's just the ADHD, man. But what I'm really looking forward to is like seeing more like ADHD anime characters, or seeing more things in pop culture about ADHD, because like there's this comic where they had a character on the autism spectrum. I don't know, I forgot what the comic's name was, but I think, I'm again, take it with a grain of salt, I'm trying to think if it was by Marvel, but they actually had a character with the autism spectrum, and that's great to see. Because
I think I remember something about that.
Yeah, it came out in 2017. Let me look that up. Let me see, because I think it was Marvel.
You can always do a nice like visual movie perspective.
Yeah.
Like a first-person movie, short film, YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like what it's like living with ADD, and you can have these jump cuts that could definitely,
Oh, is this it? Hold on, I think this might be it.
I'm sure there's probably something like that before.
The Face the Value comic series has Autism Superhero with National Superhero Day. Yeah, what are you called? Let's see. Oh, it was Diamond Comic Distributors. Because I remember I went to Comic-Con. Yeah, it was, I think in 2015 I went to Comic-Con with the company I was working with, and then they had this. What is it called? Yeah, the founder of Face Value Comics, a non-profit dedicated to autism awareness and acceptance, has a lifelong love affair with comic books. That is so... See, this is what I like. I like to see it because kids growing up can see these things.
Yeah.
And then, like, with us, it's like growing up with, like, ADHD. If we saw more, like, superheroes, with this, we'd be like, wow. Yeah, I think, it's called Focus. Yep, it's called Focus.
Okay.
The Focus comic, and autistic superhero arrives. And then they also have, what is it called? The Good Doctor? That's on
that's the one
Fox?
I think I've heard of.
Yeah, he has autism. So it's like, that is what I like to see, because again, when people who have it, and then people who are going through it, especially kids, and actually even more with teenagers, because when you're a tween or a teen and you're getting bullied for this type of stuff, you need that outlet. You need that escape. So it's like, that's so important that people are starting to do this more nowadays, but like, I want to see more ADHD stuff.
Well, I will reveal this this little character secret from one of the characters I've done.
Really?
And I don't know if this is going to get me flack or... But I played Gother from Seven Deadly Sins almost as if he had autism.
Really?
Yes.
That's so awesome of you.
Because he was very much, he didn't understand normal human interactions. He didn't understand reactions.
Yeah.
He tried to study reactions in order to emulate them rather without understanding them. So it felt like a few friends I've known growing up.
Wow.
And I was like, this is, so I took kind of inspiration from them.
That is so awesome. That's actually awesome of you, because then if you ever do speak about this, like, publicly to people, you know how many people would relate to that? Like, so many people, and then they'll see him in a new light.
Yeah. But it's funny because, like, tying back to the wrestling thing and all that, is that Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy, he played Drax, a character who couldn't understand literal... who only understood literal things. He didn't understand metaphors or anything. And he posted about how he received a very heartfelt letter from a father of an autistic child who really identified with Drax.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, the kid was just like, he's just like me.
Oh.
He has trouble understanding the same things I have trouble understanding.
Yeah. And it's like, instead of like when we were growing up, it was looked at like, oh, there's something wrong with this kid because they have these troubles. Right, yeah. Nowadays, it's much easier for people to understand it because you see it in pop culture and everything, but especially for ADHD, I want to see, like, Eric, we should write a comic about this. Just like about ADHD superheroes.
We'll write each other page independently and just put it all together, and it'll be.
Oh my! Imagine like how crazy that would be. People would see the true power of ADHD.
Indeed.
It's like, okay, you get page 1, I get page 2. I'd be like, what is this? Oh man, but I think like again, there's more work that needs to be done, but I think especially in schools, why I always tell people anime and manga and video games and comic books especially should be added more to schools, like to the curriculum, because there's a lot of kids, like with me growing up, I resonated mostly with anime and comics and video games. So if people start bringing that more to schools, then I really feel like kids would have more or less type of learning disabilities. They'd learn through these video games how they learn, because there's always different ways to learn. There's always different forms of education.
Yeah, or at the very least, they would be able to communicate with their peers a little bit better.
Yep.
And, like, I never made a single friend talking about how much I love Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
Which, is not true. But, like, I'm just using it as an example. It's the one that everybody read in high school. Or The Great Gatsby, which, whatever. But I've never made a friend talking about those things, how much I love them, but I've made plenty of friends talking about Spider-Man, about X-Men, video games, Kingdom Hearts, Doctor Who, things that have intrinsic storytelling value if you look into them, but people see as just, it's just mainstream and the lowest common denominator. No, these things pull from these classics that you guys are trying to shove down our throats, and you can really drive it deeper with these kids if you give them something to relate to.
Yeah, because again, like you just said, you never made a single friend with it. Well, it's like I've made friends by just talking about anime and being an otaku, and this. It's like that's where, like, if you go to Comic-Con and you go to these conventions, the feeling of like acceptance and like community just goes over you. Like, yes, there's a lot of crazy convention stories, but at the same time, it's like everyone is 100% themselves there when they're cosplaying as a character. It's like, I knew some people that would cosplay in school and as like Naruto or like Goku or something. And they'd be like running down the halls, and then they would get picked on for that. But at Comic-Con, they feel like 100% themselves to express themselves.
Right, exactly.
Or like, oh my god, the whole... I was going back to the story. The whole Death Note on the news. A kid brings Death Note to school. Oh my god. Or Pokemon is demonic. It's like, what if you read into this, have you ever watched Death Note? It's an anime. It's like it's like these people are just going off around like, hey, I'm just gonna watch Death Note on Netflix with the Naked Brothers band.
God. Not a good example, guys. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, Death Note is a good example of an anime with some deep discussion to be had. It talks about a lot about morality.
Yeah. But it's like, kid, anime fan, brings Death Note to school. What is this about? Writing his bully's name in the Death Note. You're just like, what is going on? It's like, why don't you watch the anime and see that it's actually from an anime, a Japanese cartoon, and a Japanese form of animation, instead of thinking that this kid is gonna start something. Oh, man. But it's still, if you think about it though, like, especially in schools, like, if you talk about anime, still you're like looked at like, what? Or like, even with YouTube itself, like, people think like, wow, YouTube's not a job. And it's like, do you see the work that goes into it?
Yeah. It's full time, guys.
Yeah. And like, when people are like, it's not a job, it's like, well, do you see what I have to do? Do you know what goes behind the scenes? No.
By the way, ADD moment, it's full-time, guys, is going to be my knockoff of It's Everyday Bro.
Yes, do it. Oh my God, I'm
talking about doing a 9-to-5 job. It's full-time,
guys.
Between that and Smell You Later, Bro, I think I'm going to be really ripping into Jake Paul hard.
No, I'm telling you, do that. You have to make the video. You have to.
I know.
Cosplay as Gary Oak. Do your Gary Oak voice, and then sing it in Gary Oak's way.
Smell you later, bro. Smell you later, Gramps. I'm Gary effing Oak.
Sneak peek.
Yep.
Oh man, no way! I dare you to. I double doggy dare you to do it.
It will happen. I just got to get the resources in time when I'm not so ADD about everything else that I.
Where would you think you would film this?
Oh, probably in the Hollywood Hills.
Oh my god.
Just on the trails with Hollywood in the background, LA in the background.
Oh my god! What you gotta get is because I know Gary has like what? He had an Eevee. I know he evolved it into like an Umbreon, but like what else? You gotta have Pokeballs. You gotta get props, man.
I gotta see if I can get some friends to dress as Gary's cheerleaders.
Oh my god!
Have a whole Team 10 posse.
Have you? Oh my god! But have you ever seen? Someone made this. You know Riverdale, right?
Yeah.
Okay, someone made Arthur. On PBS Kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone made this picture. Where it was like a photographer who did this, where it's like the kids are all grown up now, but it was the Arthur casts like being as edgy as they are in Riverdale. So as like Arthur like clenches his fist, that meme.
Yeah.
So it was like very edgy, and you're just like, oh my god, but it works because it's like you have to have the comedy on point with these types of things because you have to take away from the characters and then like kind of like try to pull away from other series and do it like that, so that's why it works. So I think this whole Gary thing, why it will work with the whole Jake Paul thing, is because he will take away from that music video, but also adding karaoke memes and everything on top of that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it sometime.
You're gonna do it.
I've got to get through my ADD list though.
Exactly.
My ADD task list.
But
which will take, all of 2019.
Yeah, I know.
And I've got like 5 items on there.
But we would love to know, like, your guys' stories, if you guys have lived through ADHD, how it really has affected you. Because this episode is more of a personal episode. And we want to give you guys, like, this outlet where you could tell us your stories. And if you'd like us to, we would love to, like, read aloud your stories as well, to hear from you guys and just see, like, how it's affected your life or what you've been through with it. Because it's like, we love open-ended discussions, and we love hearing from you guys, so just leave your comments down below or tweet at us and use hashtag PopFilter, and we'll listen to your stories as well.
And if you'd like us to read it, and if you feel okay with us reading your stories in the future one, be sure to add a hashtag, I guess. What should we add for that?
I don't know, PopFilter Read Aloud or something?
yeah, that sounds good. So PopFilter Read Aloud.
Yep.
If you are okay with us sharing that in a future episode.
Yep. All right, so I think this one wraps up, and I'll also leave some, like, important numbers if you guys are going through something, like hotlines and everything, just in case you need someone to talk to, because it's like sometimes when you're going through something, you always just need somebody to talk to.
Yes.
All right, so he's Erik.
She's Kat.
And this is Pop Filter.